For some of you, this could be the video that elevates your entire game. At this point in Valorant, it probably feels like you've heard all of the advice you could possibly hear. If you've been watching Valorant guides since you started playing, you've probably noticed that most of them say the same stuff. Keep your crosshair at head level, use your utility to clear angles, make sure that you counter strafe, and while all of these things are important, they can only provide you so much value on their own. That's why today we're going to show you how to double the value of all of the skills that you've already mastered. It's super simple, it's not clickbait, and in just under 10 minutes, we'll make sure that you are implementing this like a pro. Luckily for you though, if you don't pick it up right away, we've actually recorded 10 commentaries over on the website where Teets and I will walk you through exactly how to implement this tactic. Those days of feeling like you can't do enough for your team are all over. It's time for you to win more matches and, more importantly, get more kills. If you're on the edge though, don't worry. The entire site is backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so if we don't help you grow as a player, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. We do that because it's not about the money for us. We genuinely want to help you become a better player. Check out SkillCapped with the link below and we will see you there. Alright, so this seems to be the most simple way that this concept can be explained. You're playing Sova, right? You're on A-site ascent and you shoot a recon dart at the wall. The recon dart tags 5 players. That's a ton of value. Off of that dart, let's say you end up killing 1 target through the wall. Maybe on a good day, you get 2. Now reel that back just a little bit. Your dart tagged 5 people, which is huge, but you only killed 1 or 2. Don't get me wrong, 1 or 2 kills in a round is pretty huge off of a single recon dart. However, let's take that same recon dart and rather than shooting it while you're alone, you shoot it while you have a teammate standing by. Now, both of you end up getting kills off of this recon dart, and you've effectively doubled your impact, and all you did different was you waited for a teammate to arrive. This sounds like a super simple concept, but I promise you every day in your ranked games, you're not applying this quite as well as you could be. Take a look at this clip submitted by one of you, for example. This is a very common example of how players will actively reduce the amount of impact that they could be having in a round. Notice how our Raze is fighting long all alone, and his Reyna is 2 feet away from him fighting short all alone. This is an incredibly common setup on Haven that players will run, but what if I told you it's completely wrong? You see, most duelists in the game don't have a ton of stopping power when it comes to the enemy's push. Raze, luckily, is one of the few exceptions, but even Raze tends to struggle because after she's thrown her paint shells, she's really got nothing to slow down a push. At the end of the day, this Raze could have the best aim in the world, but it doesn't matter when she's getting pushed with this much util. They used a Breach stun and a Sova dart to take long, and then once they got onto site, Jett dashed out and Breach flashed it again. That is a lot of utility invested from the enemy team, and you can see how powerful their teamwork actually was to take over the site. If you think about it, the Jett dash actually doubled the impact of the Breach flash, because otherwise, the flash is eventually just going to wear off. But in our Raze's case, what was she expected to do against this? Well, the answer is, alone, nothing. But with a teammate, maybe you could have stopped this push. Say for example, rather than Raze playing a lone back site defending this push, she worked with her Reyna to take control of short and prepare for a retake. Or she asked her Reyna at the start of the round to group up with her and fight long. Now, although the Breach stun might have stopped any initial peak, if over the course of the game this is something you've seen them do, you can wait out the stun and fight afterwards. Raze is never going to fend off a 5-man push alone, but with some well-timed utility and maybe a teammate or two, you can make some really awesome things happen. One really valuable lesson you'll need to learn as you start climbing the ranks in Valorant is that alone, your utility isn't that strong. That's why I get so frustrated in my games when I see duelist players who don't want to communicate with their initiators, because a Jett dash actually isn't that good, unless it's comboed with some form of utility to help her use it safely. A Jett dash is alright, but it's 2 times stronger when it's paired with a Breach stun or flash. Raze's paint shells are pretty good, but you're probably not getting many kills with them until you combo them with a Fade Seize. This Raze, after losing to a push like this, might feel like if I only played just a little bit better, maybe I would have come out on top. And while in Valorant, it is possible that you land some crazy shots and win a round, you also need to recognize you're not meant to hold down a 5-man push alone. Nobody's kit is built for that. Even Vipers would get run over if the right utility was used. Which brings me to an interesting point. For anyone who remembers Valorant's announcement trailer when it was referred to as Project A, you've probably seen this reference. To be clear, in Project A, shooting matters. You don't kill with abilities. Abilities create tactical opportunities to take the right shot. Characters have abilities that augment their gunplay instead of fighting directly with their abilities. Now, just so we're on the same page, when you watch this clip, tell me, do you think shooting mattered?
I think this is the offer, yeah.
Okay. Bring them down.
On.
Grenade! Where are you?
Let's push this guy, come on.
You can get on site, we're on site, we're on site.
Satchel out.
Dead. You are. One.
Grenade!
Gotta be low.
Satchel out.
One heaven.
Peeking heaven.
Low 120 heaven.
One enemy remaining.
4. Grenade!
I think he's out of ammo too. Could be pushing. Man, that's my duo.
Yes, sir.
Aiming, of course, is important in Valorant, but don't be deceived. Your abilities are meant to make it so that when you use them, it's nearly impossible to lose the gunfight. But it's not like you have 400 flashes in a round. In some cases, you only have 2. So you've got to get the most value out of them. You do this by timing your abilities correctly and having teammates around to really maximize their value. Making a solo play in Valorant can only yield so much value. Solo plays are oftentimes the riskiest type of plays that in many situations don't even yield that much reward. If you have trouble understanding when you should or shouldn't make a solo play, we recommend checking out this video that will make it incredibly simple to remember. By the way, that clip with the sky from earlier was part of one of our Smurf commentaries Teets and I recorded for the website. Let's take a look at a few more rounds, and I want you to notice how oppressive our utility is. You'll notice with the standard faded raise combo, we're able to pick up 2 easy kills, and then with our Reyna, there's basically just no chance for any of these players here. Like I said, utility alone is decent. You'll notice that this breach stun forces us off the angle, but it definitely didn't matter when we used util of our own in exchange, which is something that will almost always happen. This is a very common concept called trading util. If we don't trade util here, we concede basically all of the space to the enemy team after this breach stun, because we can't contest this without it. However, because we not only exchanged util, but actually used more than the enemy team, we actually come out ahead in this engagement. And here's something crazy that might blow your mind, but at the end of the day, Valorant can be simplified down into a numbers game. If the enemy team has more players alive, you need to use utility intelligently to gain that man advantage back. Because 5 players is better than 4, but 4 players with util can be better than 5 without. Think of it this way, if you want to defend site, you need to commit 1 more of either type of resource than the enemy team. So if you want to defend in a 3v3, you need to commit 1 more piece of util than the enemy team. In this case, they used 1 fault line, but we used 1 paint shells and 1 Cs. It was a 3v3, but we used 1 more piece of util and it made all of the difference. This equation is pretty freaking consistent, and now that I've mentioned it, you'll start to notice it more and more in your games. For example, take a look at this round. Let's add up the numbers. We have 1 player peeking and 1 blind. This means that we have a score of 2. The enemy team has 3 players who all got full blinded. Their score, despite the full blind and them being on eco, is still 3. Meaning they have an upper hand, and that's why despite them being on eco, Teets gets traded out immediately. Let's do one more example for good measure. In this round, you'll notice Teets and I run up long, and this gives us a score of 2. On top of that, Teets uses 2 flashes. That's a score of 4. The enemy team has 2, which means that even though Teets' flash ends up hitting me as well, which pretty much brings our score down to 3, we still came out on top. Now, had the enemy team traded a breach stun long, we actually probably would have ended up in an awkward position where the scores ended up even at 3-3. At this point, it would definitely be more up in the air and likely even worse for us since we all end. However, the enemy team assumed that B long was a given and decided not to use any utility, and that's why they ended up losing. It's because we had a higher score than them. Now, of course, you can find examples of rounds where you have a higher score and still end up losing. There are no hard truths in Valorant, but by following this general rule, you'll be able to safely craft plays and understand why some things work and some things don't. Hopefully, I've opened up your eyes to a new way to play Valorant. It took me a long time to master team play, but the more you think about this rule, the more you'll realize how accurate it can really be in your games. To put it simply, the team that invests the most into a fight is generally the one that wins it. Before we go, remember that if you're looking to catch any of these commentaries in full that I've shown today, you can find those all over at the website. It's by far the fastest way to improve at Valorant, and it's also the most economically friendly option available, so that's even more of a reason to give it a look. As always, we want to thank you all for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.